All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Joe Newton. I'm the Solution Specialist at Microsoft, and with me today is Rob Mayer, who's the Visual Studio ALM MVP. This is the first in our series of DevTools update webinar type things that we're going to run every month on the last Tuesday of each month. Hopefully we'll cover some interesting things for you guys, different news, different events, different did you know kind of content, and I'll pass over to Rob just to let him introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Rob Mayer, the Visual Studio ALM MVP. I'm an independent consultant focused on Visual Studio, Team Foundation Server, and things like Agile, Scrum process, and band practice. I spend a lot of time with teams helping them get the most out of their process and tooling.
Awesome, thanks Rob. So we're going to just have turns presenting different parts of today. But at a high level, we're going to whip through a kind of tech head facts and figures summary, bit of update around the new stuff that's coming out in Team Foundation Service. We're going to show off BrowserLink, which Scott Hanselman demoed at Build a while ago. We'll talk as and when we have MSDN either program or licensing changes or interesting new things. We'll call out some of those. And we thought we would introduce a kind of 100 level type did you know section. Hopefully, you know, there'll be something there for some people sometimes that you might not know about the product, and occasionally we'll do deep dives depending on the feedback we get from you guys, and then finish up with sort of a wrap up of the different events that are coming in the short term. So just sort of let you know what we're doing in the community. So I'm going to hand over to Rob, and he's going to talk to TechEd.
So TechEd this year is just wrapped up. I was an attendee, obviously, a speaker, and I was lucky enough to be one of the track owners, which I shared on the dev track this year. So it's great to get some backstage kind of experience, see how the whole thing's put together in terms of the speaker submission and selection. Some numbers for you from this year: we had 2,500 attendees. 128 speakers gave 163 sessions across 10 different technical tracks. So kind of a huge turnout again and a sellout again. And one thing that I'm always looking for is new speakers. I run the Auckland.NET user group. I help out with running CodeCamp also, and obviously now TechEd. Finding new kind of talented, passionate speakers is I think vital to getting these events to be successful. And so people often kind of give feedback or come to me and say, well, how do I get onto speaking at these kind of stages? And we thought it might be worth going through some of the steps that you might want to take in this webinar. The great start place is your local user group. There are heaps of user groups around right now, so go along, kind of get a feel for what it's like to present, and then maybe put your hand up to present a topic that you're passionate about. Do a few of those, and then maybe move up to CodeCamp, which is kind of once a year community event that's free. And again, come and see me or get in touch with me. I'll be glad to have you as a speaker for that. And that's great because you can kind of get known in the community. People can get a feel for your strengths and weaknesses. And then when you're ready, put your hand up for TechEd. So put a submission in, get in touch with the track owner, kind of explain why you think this should be included, why you're passionate about it, and let's get you up there. The feedback can be pretty brutal, to be honest, so do think about all the effort the speakers have put in when you give them their feedback on the day. They do take it to heart, but I think it's a great way to get out there and get known in the community. So do get in touch if you're interested in that. And also, what things you'd like to see. So we make our best kind of effort on what you think will be exciting and interesting on the day, but if you think that certain topics are underrepresented at TechEd, or CodeCamp or those type of events, it would be great to hear your ideas for sessions that you would like to see. Like, this is great, but why haven't we got a session on technology XYZ? We can include that in the planning for the next events. So it'd be great to get that, that feedback early enough that we can do something about it, rather than necessarily just after the conference is wrapped up and it's too late. So party happened. Just here. Um, they got through 450 kilograms of ribs at the party, so that's a pretty good effort. I didn't get to go this year, but it looks pretty good from there. And 4,000 tubs of gelato was consumed. And somebody said, I think that the lollies that Genai supplied, they got through about $6,000 worth of those. So that's 2,500 people pretty hungry, getting through 450 kg of ribs, which I think was in the middle there. So yeah, it looks like a pretty good party again this year. It's pretty hard to pull off the organising of that one.
Yep. Thanks, Rob. So, for those that don't know, the Team Foundation service is they're released to it every 3 weeks. We don't always get new things available for us to use every 3 weeks, but they push new code up to the service every 3 weeks. And I'm hoping going forward that what we'll find is every time we have one of these, which is every month, we'll have something new to talk about. If we don't, we won't have a section, obviously, but there's obviously been a lot of activity in the service over recent times, and there's all kinds of options for us to go and show, but I thought what we would just do is kind of take an assumption that people are reasonably up to date with Team Foundation service, and we'll just start with what's new this month. Certainly if you're interested in knowing more about it, then by all means ping us some feedback and we'll try and roll that in next time, cover different sections. So I think Rob's going to talk to this one.
Yeah, so Code Lens is a new feature in Visual Studio Ultimate, and the idea is that they can provide indicators about your code that show you kind of context-sensitive information about the piece of code that you're looking at. So, for example, the current method, how many tests is it passing, how many tests is it failing, how many incoming references are there, who checked it in last, what were the changes they made. So you get all this kind of heads-up display view that can help you make decisions about the code you're about to change without having to sort of flick around to different areas and lose your current context. And yesterday or the day before, they just announced a new kind of experimental indicator on DevLabs, which is the Visual Studio sort of launch pad for new ideas that they want to try out and get feedback on. And this is the code health indicator. So if you go to DevLabs, you'll see that indicator. You can download it now if you've got Visual Studio 2013 release candidate, and that will give you this new code health metrics information. So you can see here it's things like maintainability index, lines of code, cyclomatic complexity. You know, how is the health or quality of this particular method? And that's great, but what does it mean once you've touched it? This is where I think this really gets exciting. So as and when you change this code, you can watch these metrics move. And so you see that bottom picture with the little red triangle pointing down. Based on something you've done in that method, you've made that code less maintainable. So you've dropped the maintainability indicator, or you've dropped the code, the cyclomatic complexity. So you can see very quickly, are you having a positive or negative effect on the code that you're touching? And I think that's going to drive some really interesting behaviors. So go to DevLabs and check that out now.
Yeah, I guess that the point I'd thrown at the end there, Rob, is just that even though we are talking about Team Foundation's service news, and this is clearly a Visual Studio feature, it's once it's playing nicely with TFS that a lot of the lights kind of get turned on in terms of this Code Lens feature.
Yeah, so you get the testing history, the change set history, who changed it, all out of Team Foundation Server.
Yeah, so it's a pretty awesome new feature. The other thing that came into TFS just earlier this month is the first of the reporting features that have been sort of notably missing, I guess, from the service. So now you can run queries on, just whatever kind of queries you want to run, but then you can make charts that show certain things. At this stage it's a little bit rudimentary, and we were talking about this offline about how it doesn't pull in tags. Obviously tags is one of the really important ways that you've got in the product to structure and organize your work items according to project-specific requirements. So you can name them, maybe according to subsystem. You can name work items according to, any kind of tag that you want. And once they add tags into these charts, they'll become very, very powerful. At this stage, they're there. They're there for you to look at and play with. And so, it is what it is. Okay, so this demo, I'm going to flick over to Rob, and he's going to run through the browser link.
So I'm going to show you a new feature in Visual Studio 2013, browser link. I've created a new web project in 2013. That's just a default standard web project. So you can see here web application 3, and I've run that, and I'm viewing that default page in a number of different browsers. So I've got this in Safari, in I think IE, and in Firefox. So you can see that the layout is obviously the same in each browser. And often when we're going through and making changes, we want to look at how it appears in different browsers. And so we're sort of F5ing as we go around each browser to look at, well, does the layout look good? And this feature is really going to simplify a lot of that. So I want to change my layout, and the default theme that ships with Visual Studio 2013 is Bootstrap, which will be familiar to all you web developers. Bootstrap 2.3 is in the box right now, and they're looking to upgrade it to 3.0 by RTM. So I want to get a new Bootstrap theme. So I can go across to bootswatch.com and download the new theme. And you can see bootswatch.com. So if you're going to go along and do this, make sure that you download a 2.3 template until the upgrade to RTM happens. And I'm going to download this Amelia template. So I can go to download the Bootstrap CSS, and I've already downloaded this Bootstrap template. So let's go and plug it into Visual Studio. I'll add the CSS file to my content folder. I'm adding Bootstrap theme. And I'll go into the app start folder. You'll see the bundle config class, and that's how we can wire up Bootstrap support inside Visual Studio. So I'm going to change the CSS name. Bootstrap. Rebuild. Okay, so now at this point we probably want to go through to all of our different browsers and refresh and see how that looks. I'm going to use this browser link feature to do it. So you'll see next to the run toolbar, we've got this browser link icon, and it's telling me I've got 3 browsers connected. So I'm going to drop this down and choose the browser link dashboard. Down here in the bottom right, you can see it's showing me which browsers I've got connected and what page they're currently looking at. So it's using SignalR to do this. It's using SignalR to create a connection between the browsers I've got open that are currently browsing to my page and Visual Studio. And so I want to push this update to all my different browsers at once. So I can go up here and hit this refresh button here. The shortcut is Control-Alt-Enter. So I'm going to say refresh my linked browsers. We'll go and look at our 3 browsers and see what's happening. Okay, so you can see our browsers are all updating themselves in that one click. So I can make changes to my content and go through and just Control-Alt-Enter, and it's going to push that change out to all my browsers at once. So in the same way, that was a theme change, and I had to make some code change to do a recompile. I can go back to Visual Studio, and I just want to change some text. Here's in that main header. again, Control-Alt Enter to put that out. We can see that that text is now changed to say RMC is a free web framework, again across all my browsers at once. And this is extensible. So if you go and get the latest Web Essentials Visual Studio plugin, that builds on this technology to enable you to do things like in-place editing. You can do recording, you can do CSS styling in place. So I think that's something we'll save for another webinar, but this technology is a real enabler for some great features in the web space.
Awesome, thanks Rob. Yeah. Okay, so MSDN changes, interesting things. Microsoft Fakes back in Visual Studio 2012 Update 2 were moved down from Ultimate down into Premium. And one of the sort of key benefits of the Fakes tool, if you like, is that it can do interception at runtime. So you are able to test what would have previously been quite difficult classes if they weren't sort of set up for dependency injection. You can use the Fakes tool to get in there and inject, tests, services, or whatever you're trying to do there. One of the key parts of the product is the SharePoint emulator for people that are trying to do SharePoint work, and finding that testing it's a bit tricky. This product is a really good enabler there. So it's been brought down to the Premium product on the basis that we're hoping that most teams, are enabling their team members with the Premium product. The Premium product basically has everything you want in it, other than sort of some key web testing and architectural features, and the code lens. Unfortunately, the code lens is a real a sweetener, or a carrot out there, I guess, to get you to move up to Ultimate. But yeah, Premium's being enabled with more and more features.
Backlog management and iteration planning has moved to, so as of TFS 2013, those used to be premium features, so the ability to sort of quick add product backlog items using the web UI into Team Foundation Server, and then drag them into certain sprints, as well as look at your team capacity. That all used to be a VS Premium only, and that's now in Cal. So if you've got Visual Studio Pro, with MSDN, you can now use that functionality. So that's another positive change.
And then lastly, the Visual Studio Test Professional product has had its Azure hours confirmed now, and what that lets you do is, without a credit card, basically get your MSDN subscription and activate your Azure time, which gives every person who has MSDN effectively an Azure sandpit to play with. Dev people probably will find that they use it more to flex out, Azure Media Services, or integrating with Azure, publishing from TFS out to maybe their own sort of test websites, that kind of thing. But the testing side of it would obviously enable testers to spin up their own test labs and work through some of the nuances of Lab Manager and so on. So that's pretty cool. Right. The Visual Studio Test Professional product I've come across plenty of customers that have been confused by it. It's called Visual Studio, and yet there's no Visual Studio in it. The Microsoft Test Manager product is what you get if you were to get the Visual Studio Test Professional product. And for the people that didn't know, that Visual Studio Premium or Visual Studio Ultimate also include Visual Studio Test Pro. So the Premium and the Ultimate products give you that tool, and it's really aimed more as an additional product that can help out the development team. The Test Professional product is aimed at testers, business analysts, product owners, maybe project managers, maybe. So it's it's a testing tool that is a fully fledged testing tool. It lets you manage test cases. It lets you run tests. It lets you run manual tests. It lets you run automated tests. It provides defect management, and it's just a really nice tool to take some of that traditional slow application testing that a developer would do when they're at the end of the cycle and they're running the app looking for things they missed. You can use the tool to record what you're doing as you go through it. And the reason we're calling out the Microsoft Test Manager product is that that's a real focus for us this year at Microsoft, and trying to enable our teams with a product that integrates fully into Visual Studio and TFS. And we believe it's a better, cheaper, faster version of a test tool than any other tools that are out there in the market. So what we're going to do over the next few webinars is start to deep dive into Microsoft Test Manager. We're not going to do it today, just because we have covered that browser link and we thought we might run out of time. So just as a wrap on the events that are coming up, we've got a series of exec breakfasts that are running this week. On the 10th in Auckland at Microsoft, we're running a Microsoft Test Manager deep dive, and that will be hosted by myself. It's a customer event. If you're interested in attending that, by all means let me know and I can get you on the list. And just to throw that out there, on the 13th of November we're going to see Visual Studio 2013. Now we're going to be doing plenty in New Zealand for the launch around that. I guess this is just a maybe put it in your calendar as a reminder that there's going to be plenty of events on leading up to the launch. If you go to the events.visualstudio.com site, you'll see a big countdown and links to other information around it. It also coincides with the Windows 8.1 release. So there's plenty going on leading up into that middle of November. I think the other thing we'd call out, which isn't on our slide, is CodeMania, which is on October the 3rd. CodeMania is an event that Microsoft is one of a few different companies that support that. It's run by guys that are just out there in the community, and it's a pretty cool event. So
and it's cheap. It's like $20. You get in CodeMania after dark. Yeah.
Yeah. So certainly go and look at it on the website, codemania.co.nz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Test Manager deep dive, how do people register for that? How do people get invites for that?
Yeah, because we're running it as a customer event, we're reaching out to customers, but I've taken the approach with it that if we've got people listening to our webinar that could well be interested in it, so just reach out to me on the email address that we put at the start of the slides. All right, so we're thinking in terms of an agenda that we probably have a few recurring type sections to this thing. Obviously this isn't a particularly long webinar this time, because it's sort of more meant to be an intro and that kind of thing. Certainly we could go longer and go into far more detail on some different aspects of the product. We will do demos, and we will continue to keep people updated on MS10. But certainly if there is feedback, make sure you ping it through. Awesome. Oh, there's even a slide there at the end. So yeah, aim those through to me. Well, thank you, Rob, and thank you everybody for listening today and joining in. Yeah, hopefully this is of use.
Next time.